Okay, here we go. Let us begin. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to welcome you to the very first session of our brand new course called Judaism at Home. Okay, so Judaism at Home, this course is all about exploring Judaism at home. I mean, literally, the title is not esoteric. It's all about Judaism at home. I think we're all at home at this point right now. I think everyone's in their homes. And the question is, what does Judaism mean at home? How can we introduce Jewish ideas, concepts, spaces into our home environment? So I want to begin with a story. Jerry, hi, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. So I want to begin with a story. The story goes that there was a Jewish couple who wins the lottery. Yeah, as they say in New York, all it takes is $1 and a dream. I remember those were the commercials. All it takes is $1 and a dream. Yeah, I'm sure they make more than $1. Okay, so Jewish couple wins the lottery. And now they buy the big house and the fancy schmancy Rolls Royces. And on top of that, they hire a butler. Oh, this is the real deal. They're hiring a butler, but not like, a fake news butler. This is a butler from England with the accent, like the full-on butler. And he's now working in this very Jewish home. And it's, it's a little bit of a thing. So one of the first few nights or first few days that this butler is working in the home, the couple says to him, whatever the butler's name was, Mr. Butler, please set the dining room for 4, us 2, plus we're inviting the Cohens. And please reach out to the Cohens. Here's their number, just confirm they're coming, etc. All right, this couple goes out for the afternoon. They come back late afternoon toward the evening, a little bit before the dinner party is supposed to begin. And they see the table is set not for 4, but for 8. And the couple says to the butler, what's going on? We set this set for 4. It's us and the Cohens. He says, you don't understand. And I'm not going to copy the accent. He says, listen, I called them and reminded the Cohens that they're meant to be here. And they told me that they'll be bringing the blintzes and the knishes. So I figured, you're bringing the blintzes and the knishes. We got another 4 spaces. Anyway, look. Blintzes, knishes, it's all good food, whether it's at home or not at home. But here's the point. The point is at this junction in time, right? At this juncture in time, at this point in time, we are spending a lot of time at home. And as we're at home, it's important to look at what we can do to up our Jew game, right? How do we kind of bring it to the next level? How do we kind of raise our Jewish spiritual energy, our Jewish spiritual practice at home? Here's a misconception. There's a big misconception that Judaism is a synagogue-based religion. First of all, I would say that there's a misconception that Judaism is a religion altogether. It's not a religion. It's not a belief system. You go to shul, you go to synagogues on Yom Kippur, and people are there, and you ask them, so what brings you here? You believe in God? No. So why are you in synagogue on Yom Kippur? Listen, I'm Jewish. Where else should I be? So Judaism is not so much a religion in the sense that it's about belief. It's more about action. It's an action-oriented practice. It's a way of living. It's not really a belief system as much as it is a way of life and a way of behavior, being a mensch, treating others kindly, our responsibilities toward ourselves, humanity, and of course, God and purpose. Okay, but many think there's a misconception that Judaism is centered around the synagogue, right? It's about memberships and sermons and all that stuff. In truth, it's really not about that at all. It's really not. Yeah, of course, we hold typically, when there's no pandemic going on, we'll hold synagogue services and have simchas and have happy occasions in the synagogue. But the truth of the matter is, Judaism is primarily lived, enjoyed, practiced, developed, taught, breathed at home. Judaism is primarily a home-based experience. Tell you a story. This story comes from the book of Genesis, so you may be familiar with it. Jacob gets in a fight with his brother Esau. Twin brothers, they can't get along. Esau wants to kill Jacob. It had to do with taking some blessings and dressing up like him. We don't have time to get into that right now. So Jacob has to head out of Dodge. He's got to bounce at this point. He's got to get out of there. It's not healthy to be in that kind of situation where his brother wants to kill him. Not good for Shalom Bayit, peace in the home. Plus, it's time for him to get married, settle down, have a family. And his parents don't want him to marry a local girl. They want him to marry a girl from the place, from the country, from the town where his mother comes from, Rebecca. So he heads off to the place called Haran, where Rebecca, his mother, was from, and where he is destined to find his wife. Turns out to be wives, but that's, again, another story. So the Torah tells us that he begins setting off on his journey, and he gets tired because it's a long journey. And he decides to lie down at a certain place and take a rest. He takes some rocks, uses it as a makeshift pillow, and he goes down and he falls asleep. And while he's sleeping, he has a dream. Now, you may know where I'm going with this. That dream was the famous Jacob's ladder dream, where Jacob dreams of a ladder with 4 rungs, and there are angels going up and coming down. And it's this whole magical thing. And he wakes up and he realizes, I'm not sleeping in an ordinary spot. This is not like some random, resting spot. This is none other than a holy place. And it's the place where the Holy Temple was built on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem many centuries later. So he wakes up. It's a holy place. What does he do? And this is the point that I want to get to. He takes the stone that he put by his head, the main one that he used as the pillow. Just parenthetically, our sages tell us that he took 12 stones, which kind of foreshadowing the 12 tribes, his 12 sons that would ultimately be born. But when he woke up in the morning, they were 1 stone. I know what you're thinking. How did that happen? I wasn't there. But that's what our sages say, that the 12 stones fused into one, which is such a beautiful lesson about diversity and unity. And there's a lot to talk about on that topic. Or maybe in the presence of greatness. Jacob was a tzaddik, was a righteous person. In the presence of righteousness, great leaders can bring people together for a common cause. You can take 12 separate stones and they'll come together, with a Jacob at the helm. Okay, but that's parenthetical. Getting back to our story. He takes the stone in the morning, and he says, and the prayer is in the Torah. You can, somewhere in here, this is my chumash. You'll see why I have that on my table a little bit later. He says that this stone I am designating as a holy stone for an altar, as a monument to God, for protecting me on my journey and for helping me build my family. And ultimately he comes back 22 years later and he uses that same stone as an altar. And ultimately that's where the temple is built. Again, centuries, many, many, many years later. What we see here is that what is the cornerstone of the temple? Like literally the cornerstone of the temple is the stone that was used when Jacob was building his family, his home. See, typically we think that the key to a home, a Jewish home, is the synagogue. It's the other way around. The key to a synagogue is the home. Are you with me on that? The distinction. Typically, we think that the main place, the primary place of, Jewiness is in the synagogue. And we're just like homes are supporting the synagogue. It's the other way around. It's the other way around. The home is the primary space where Judaism exists, where it lives and breathes. The synagogue is a place where certain things happen. But primarily, the magic happens at home. I'll tell you this. If we're looking for messages, I'm not saying this is why it's happening. I'm not one of those, I can tell you what God is thinking. Nope, that's not me. But I'll tell you this. One of the things that I take from this whole situation is that apparently, I'm not saying this is why it's happening, but apparently God loves us even when we don't go to synagogue. And apparently God values our spiritual experiences even when we're not in synagogue. I think that's kind of clear, right? We're able to connect. We're able to spiritually do things and be Jewish even without the synagogue. If there's any time in history that we can talk about and really embrace what it means to be Jewish at home, it's right now. And I know in Georgia and Atlanta now, things are opening up. But I think people are still staying at home. And again, the message is true. We've been at home for weeks. Let's understand its significance and how to build a healthier spiritual dynamic at home. That is the objective of this series. We have 5 lessons. It's going to explore, each lesson is going to explore a different area of Jewish home life. One of the thoughts that I had was to broadcast each class from a different room in my house, corresponding to the discussion of that week, because every week we're going to focus on maybe a different area of the home experience. So today I am in, one of my son's bedrooms. It's the one with the bowling pin, as you can see, from his success in bowling. Maybe one, we'll see. We'll see. No promises about the broadcast, but it may work. But today is really about the bedroom, as you'll see.
Rabbi.
Yes, Ray.
Wasn't that place called Bethel, where Jacob?
Yeah, that was one of the names. Yeah. Bethel means the place, the house of Beit, right? Kel. It's a house of God.
Right.
Okay. So this course will explore Judaism at home. 5 sessions. We'll talk about the Jewish day, starting with the morning. We'll talk about Jewish food. That's going to be a fun topic. We'll talk about Jewish prayer, Jewish rest, and everything in between. So we got your day covered. We got all the rooms in your home covered. And I hope you're ready for, hopefully, a very fun and informative 5 lessons. I will tell you this, a disclaimer before we get started. I am going to be sharing a lot of ideas. There's going to be a lot of ideas shared in each lesson. Don't worry if it seems like a little bit, overwhelming or too much or whatever. Take whatever you can absorb. And it's not about quantity. It's about quality, right? It could be just about one thing that we do to enhance our Jewish home life. Even one thing is significant. We're all about taking, mini steps, like the ladder, which I mentioned before. Just got me thinking, Jacob sees this ladder with angels. Yeah. Since when do angels need a ladder to get up? Don't they have those wings, right? Why do they need rungs on a ladder? It's less about the angels and more about us. If we want to get to heaven, which may not be the objective to escape, but if we want to rise up, that's a Southern thing. It sounds like an Atlanta thing, right? If we want to rise up, here's how it's done. Rung by rung, step by step. You can't do everything at once. So there's going to be a lot of information. Maybe for some of you, you may be familiar with some or many of these ideas. For some of you, these things may be completely new, and most of you will be somewhere in between. That's okay. Even if you've heard these things before, or these things from prior experience, study, or practice, hopefully we'll share new insights. If you've never heard it, I'll try to break it down and explain it as much as possible. Whatever this leads to in a positive way is going to be positive. So don't get overwhelmed, take in as much as you can and enjoy. I should also mention that I have a handout for everybody. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show it on my screen tonight, but afterwards, right after the class, please God, I'm going to send each of you an email with the PDF, because it's going to be a good thing to do, because you'll be able to take it and to use it at home. As you'll see, it has various insights and ideas. Okay, without further ado, let us jump right in. Today's class focuses on the Jewish day. What does a day in the life of a Jew, homebound Jew, look like? The truth is, we're going to talk about the morning. I think everyone's home in the morning pretty much, right? So what does the morning look like Jewishly? So here is the amount of time that we're going to focus on. From the moment you wake up in the morning, or we wake up in the morning, until the moment that we have our first cup of coffee. And I know what you're thinking. How do you know I have a cup of coffee? I don't. I actually don't drink coffee. But when I say coffee, I mean before you eat or drink. So between the time you wake up and the time that you take that first sip of coffee, tea, whatever beverage you have, And I actually have some tea right here. So, l'chaim. So between that time, what happens Jewishly at home? Right? What does Jewish tradition, practice, philosophy, mysticism tell us about how to maximize those moments? Here's what you need to know. Everything begins at the beginning, right? It's a truism. Things begin at the beginning. And how things go in the beginning sets the tone for how things unfold. So how you start your day, how I start my day, is not just a moment in time or a fragment in time, but it's rather a fundamental step to determine the trajectory of the day that we're going to have. It's not simply, this is very important, it's not simply that it happens to be whatever, that's the first thing I did today. What I do in the beginning is going to directly impact the way everything else unfolds. To give you an example of growth, physical growth, like a tree. So one day I come home from Chabad, from the synagogue, and I see that area, I'm sure there's a name for it, and unmute yourself if you know what I'm talking about. Like the grass area in front of the house, not the yard, but like the sidewalk, and then there's like that other thin area before the actual street. Help me out here. What's it called? There's got to be a name for it.
The easement.
The what?
The easement.
The easement?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so that area, I come home one day and I see it's marked up. There's flags inside of it. I'm like, who decided to like discover this and call it their own? I mean, flags are like when oh, we're on the moon, here's a flag. I mean, like what's going on now? So I see that it says Trees Atlanta. This will be a future home of a tree from Trees Atlanta. I'm like, cool, that's great. They're making things beautiful. That's fantastic. Trees Atlanta, for those who don't know, is a organization, nonprofit organization that goes around and they scope out areas, neighborhoods that need some more trees, and they plant it. Now, I happen to have, a pollen allergy, so I have mixed feelings. I must tell you, mixed feelings. But anyway, these 2 extra trees are not going to like make it or break it for me. I'll still have to do my thing anyway. So my kids were super excited. I told them, hey guys, look what's going on. They're going to plant some trees here. They were waiting. A few days later, come home once again, and what do you know? Little trees, like little baby trees. And my kids were over the moon, the little ones, Riva and Ellie. For those that know, my youngest kids, the girl and the boy. So super excited. And they quite literally adopted a tree. Like each one took one of the trees. So Riva took the one right in front of the, Riva took one of them and Ellie took the other one. They each took a tree and they took it upon themselves to take care of the tree, like to water it, if things are getting a little bit. The first day, for sure, it was watered. Second day, definitely watered. Like the first several days, it was watered. And then, things happen and, life moves on and then it rains and then they're reminded. But every now and again, Riva and Ellie will be like, well, my tree is bigger than yours. No, my tree, well, it might be taller, but this one is, the leaves or the branches are wider, whatever. They love their trees. Now, why do I mention this? When they first put in the trees, it was like so, I don't know, kind of like, it wasn't so stable in the earth. Like you could move it if you it was like a small tree, so you could take it, not that you would want to, and tilt it. And there's a beautiful parable brought in Hasidic philosophy about doing exactly that. If you take something that grows like a tree and you alter its trajectory, even at a very small angle, do you know what it's going to end up looking like? When it grows up, big, it's going to be very far off center. Even though when it first starts, first of all, Adina Malka, I'm just noticing you now. I don't know why I didn't think of this. Adina Malka is, this is your field, right? You can write the book on this. Okay, I digress. So you take this and you move it like an inch and a half. When it grows, it's going to be more than an inch and a half off center. It's going to be very far off center, and it could cause tremendous problems. Things have to start off on the correct path. If it starts off a little bit skewed, we're done. Everything, the primary The stakes are high in the beginning. This is true in everything, and it's true with our day as well. By the way, I was thinking, they tell the story that in 1961, the first astronaut to go into outer space was a Russian. Yeah, he was Russian in the rocket. No, but he was Russian. And his name was, I wrote this in my notes, his name was Yuri Gagarin. Yeah. So they tell the story. I don't know if it's true or not, or a joke. I don't know. I wasn't there. But they tell the story. Oh, it's probably a joke. No, it's for sure a joke, now that I think about it. So what's the joke? So the joke is that he, before he leaves to outer space on his mission, he writes a note to his wife, says, honey, I'm going to outer space. I'll be back on Monday. He comes back on Monday and he sees a note from his wife. And his wife's note is, honey, I went to the store to buy bread. I don't know when I'll be back. That's the joke about Russia and communism. Are you with me? Yeah. Okay. So what's the point? We don't know when this is really going to be over, right? We don't really know when life is going to be 100% back to normal. We're kind of in this holding pattern. We're like Yuri's wife that's kind of buying the bread, but not sure when she's going to get home. But in this case, we are home. Whatever. The point is like this. What are we going to do to help get our day started correctly? Because it all follows the beginning. Okay, so here's what you need to know. The Code of Jewish Law in the Shulchan Aruch. I actually have a copy of the abridged version of the Code of Jewish Law right here. Ooh, there's a little bit of a glow here. Kitzer Shulchan Aruch. This is the shorter version of the Code of Jewish Law. Takes all those pesky laws out. I'm kidding. It's the abridged version. The first law in the Code of Jewish Law is, you know what it says? The first statement is, you have to wake up in the morning like a lion. Yiskaber ka'ari. My name, Ari, right? Means lion. Wake up, strengthen yourself like a lion. No, like soft wake up, like, wake up with like a lion. That's the first thing in the Code of Jewish Law. Who would have thought the Code of Jewish Law is telling you how to wake up in the morning? It does. You wake up like a lion. Doesn't mean be vicious. Right? It just means wake up with enthusiasm. I heard this story. Parents once went to a rabbi and they said, our kids driving us meshuggah, driving us bananas. Every morning, the crack of dawn, they're running in our room, jumping on the beds, waking us up. It's gefährlich, it's terrible. And the rabbi says, think about it. You know what that means? That means that these children are excited about the day. And what about us adults? Another day. Who needs it? Nothing exciting, nothing to see here. Kids have a hope and they believe that today will be exciting and they're enthusiastic about it. Somehow, at some point in time, we became jaded and we started believing that every day was going to be like the previous day and there's nothing new under the sun. And what's the big deal anyway? Or maybe we had concerns in our mind and we're like, you know what? Rather not face this stuff. Somehow we became jaded, we became cynical. And Judaism teaches us, regain the innocence of our youth. Wake up like a young child, excited to greet the sun, excited to greet the day. That's the right way. So the first thing that we talk about when we talk about the Jewish day and Judaism at home, first thing is how we wake up. We wake up with enthusiasm. Okay, I wasn't sure if I heard somebody unmute themselves or want to make a comment or make a statement. Anyone wanted to share something? No, I'm looking around to see all the mics are muted. Again, by the way, this is not meant to be a monologue. I can see all of your faces and it looks like everyone is with me, but please feel free to jump in at any point in time and even ask the question, why a lion and not a giraffe? I wouldn't have the answer to that, by the way. It's a good question. But I guess a lion is like enthusiastic. Ich weiß nicht. I don't know. But looking forward to the day is a very good thing. A very good thing. There was once a rabbi who he was known for waking up very early in the morning. And his students asked him, like, why do you wake up so early in the morning? He said, look, when I pass away after 120 years, I'm going to go in front of the heavenly court. And they're probably going to look at my deeds from the beginning of the Code of Jewish Law. And I don't want to fail the first question, right? The first law that says, get up like a lion, whoops, 0 for 1. You want to start, at least you want to get a base hit your first time at bat. You want to get the first question right Did you wake up like a lion? Check. So that was his rationale. But for us, it means being excited about the day. So let's see how we get the day off. Once we wake up with enthusiasm, now what do? So the first Jewish thing in the morning, once we wake up, is, as many of you know, we recite the Modeh Ani prayer. Now, this is a 10-second prayer. It's very quick. Modeh Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shehachzarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatecha. Super simple, super short. In fact, I have it up on my screen, which I will share with you right now. And like I mentioned a moment ago, I will not only share my screen with you, I'm actually going to share this file with you because this is what you're going to use at home. So here we go. Oh, wait, that's the second. Sorry, that's page number 4. Let's start from the beginning. Passage 1, Modeh Ani. So here's what the passage says. I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. Now, you can say it in the English. You can say it in the Hebrew. But if you want to know what Judaism looks like at home, we start from the beginning of the day. This is what Judaism looks like at home. This is what the Jewish morning looks like. This is the first thing that we do upon waking up. And it's interesting because there's a lot of depth in this short prayer. It's a short prayer, but it packs a powerful punch. First of all, if you look at the Hebrew, let's see if I can highlight this. If you look at the Hebrew, yeah, look at that. The Hebrew says Modeh Ani. In the English, it's I offer thanks. Okay? In the Hebrew, if you were translating it literally word for word, it would be Modeh, thanks, Ani, I. Thanks, I offer to you. You see how the subject, I don't know what the grammatical, but the verb, Modeh, offering thanks, comes before the subject, I. So in the English, we say, I offer thanks to you. In the Hebrew, we say, Modeh Ani. Offer thanks do I. What's the significance? I'm glad you asked. What's the significance? The significance is that it's all about, we don't start the day with I. I know in the English, it literally does, but in the Hebrew, we don't start the day with ego. We don't start the day with saying, I offer thanks. I am happy. That's still a little bit too much ego. So we start with Modeh, and then we go to Ani. We start with thanks, and then we say I. Again, if you're not familiar with the Hebrew, you can certainly do it in the English. It's worthwhile. I would say it's very appropriate to try to learn it in the Hebrew or get a transliteration. This version that I have here does not have the transliteration, but I'm sure you can find it online. Again, I will share this with you, Hebrew and English, but it is sans transliteration. So what is the purpose of this prayer? If you look at the prayer, it's talking about offering thanks, about having the soul, faithfulness is great. What's the message? There are many messages and many commentaries and books have been written about this one prayer, but I want to share two simple points. Two simple points to think about. And these are like morning meditations. Number one, the notion of purpose. I wake up this morning and I feel like I have purpose. I feel like I'm alive and God gave me back my soul. And you know what? There's a reason why. I have something to accomplish. You hear people that had a near-death encounter, right? People that came close with the brush of death. And oftentimes, when they've, upon, surviving or recovering or whatever it is, they'll say, I feel like God kept me around, kept me alive for a purpose. I feel blessed. And it's the same thing we're meant to do every morning. When we sleep, it's kind of like a mini brush with death. The Talmud says that sleep is 1/60th of death. It's a taste of death where we lose our consciousness to a certain extent. We're not fully aware. We don't have our full faculties. So when we sleep, it's a somewhat a precarious situation. When we wake up in the morning, we should feel a sense of purpose, a sense of renewed purpose. God gave me back my life. God restored my soul within me. There's something great for me accomplished today. So number one is purpose. And number two is gratitude. Of course, the overarching theme, the big theme of this prayer is one of gratitude, where we're literally offering thanks to God for giving us back our souls, right? Thank you, God, for restoring my soul within me. That's straight up gratitude. It's funny. I think it's kind of amazing how modern psychologists, behavioral psychologists, happiness psychologists will tell you that two of the major keys to feeling happy in life are, number one, feeling a sense of purpose, and number two, experiencing gratitude. These are two steps to personal well-being, happiness of mind, happiness of heart. Two critical steps to human well-being is feeling a sense of purpose and feeling blessed, feeling a sense of gratitude. And right here in this short prayer, in this opening Jewish prayer, we have this message. It's pretty incredible. Now, a few other points that I want to mention, and that is we recite this prayer before we wash our hands. I'll speak about washing hands at home soon. Today we have a lot of hand washing discussion, but you should know that in Judaism, we wash our hands in the morning, and we typically don't say blessings before that for reasons that I'll share in a moment. But this prayer, this Moda'ani prayer, we do first thing in the morning, even before we wash our hands. Oh, wow. David texted me. There's a study that shows that most strokes occur upon awakening, and that sitting up slowly over 10 seconds prevents that. Very interesting. Look at that. Look at that. Biological health is enhanced through Moda'ani, potentially. That's amazing. Listen, this is Judaism at Home, and we're going to discover a lot of wisdom. Thank you, David, for sharing that insight. Okay. So Moda'ani, again, it's about focusing a little bit less on self, feeling gratitude, feeling a sense of purpose in the morning. We do it before we wash our hands. Where that Moda'ani prayer comes from doesn't need any hand washing. It comes from such a pure place inside. It's fine even without the hand washing. We think about our role, our purpose, like I said, for the day. We set our intention and we begin our day. I know that's a popular buzz phrase. Set your intention. Before you start something, set your intention. That's literally what the Moda'ani is. We set our intention, we become mindful, we start off our day in a state of mindfulness, and then we roll it out. And it's amazing what starting the day off on the right foot can accomplish. So if we want to know what Judaism at home looks like, we're spending a lot of time at home. I mean, we're always waking up at home. I mean, more or less, unless we're traveling somewhere on the road, but we're usually at home. So these are things that apply everywhere, or at all times, but we're spending more time at home. We can introduce more of these things into our experience. Now, the next thing we do, and please, again, let me check in. Any questions, comments on Moda'ani? Clarifications? No? Thumbs up? Let me know y'all are still with me. Okay, awesome, good. Let's talk about getting dressed. Yes, Judaism talks about getting dressed. Wouldn't you know it? It's not just all like shofars and matzah. Judaism, Jewish law talks about, it's a lot about that. Yeah, there is a lot about that. But there's also about how we wake up in the morning and what we do when we wake up. So remember, we haven't had the cup of coffee yet. Remember, I'm taking you to that first sip. I'm taking you to the first cup of coffee. That's where we're going, right? We're on this journey together, and I drop you off. It sounds like dramatic, but I'll lead you to that first cup of coffee. So the next thing we do is we get dressed, shower, etc. We get dressed. Getting dressed is important. Jewish law tells us that we should get dressed in a decent fashion. We should get dressed reasonably and modestly, even if we're home alone, right? Even if we're home alone and there's no one around, dress like a mensch. Why? Because, and you probably know where I'm going with this, there's someone around. Who do you think? God's around. In other words, we're never really alone. That may sound more creepy than it's intended, right? But we believe that we're in the presence of God always. We place God before us always. So even when we're home, we get dressed in an appropriate way, in a modest, in a nice way. Here's the other really cool thing that some of you may know, some of you may not know. Some of you may think this is what is this? Okay, I'm excited about sharing this with you. We always get dressed with the right side first. Let me explain. When you put on a shirt, right sleeve am I a mirror image, or does this look like the right to you? Or it looks like the left to you? Right? Yes? Oh, I'm not sure what, I'm having trouble reading y'all. But here's the point. You start off with the right first. You put your right sleeve, you put your right foot in, you put your, even in the not hokey-dokey, hokey-pokey? Hokey-pokey?
Hokey-Pokey.
Hokey-Pokey. Sorry, I'm getting sounds very much like Hocus Pocus, but different. Even in the Hokey-Pokey, you put your right leg in, you put your right leg out, you put your right leg in, then you shake it all about. So it's always about the right first. Right arm, left arm. You're putting on a pair of pants. Right leg, left leg. Socks, right, left. Shoes, right, left. There's a pattern. Why? Oh, in fact, it gets even wilder. Okay, so there is a custom that many have that when, let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can pull this off. I may do a live demonstration. Didn't think this was coming. Okay, so men's jackets are designed that they button left over right. Are you with me? Men, can you thumbs up me for this? Yes? Always buttons left over right. But Jewish practice tells us, Judaism at home, the chorus tells us, right over left. So what do? So here's what I do. You take your jacket, you twist your button. You could do this especially when praying, and you put it right over left. In fact, some jackets purchased from Jewish stores will have a second button on the inside so that it can button right over left. That's kind of cool. So you're not going to find it in stores in Atlanta, but if you go to Brooklyn, you got to know where to shop in Brooklyn. I can hook you up. I know a guy. So you can get the old reversible buttoning jacket. So why do we do right over left? Like, what is this? Like a superstition? Like, what's up with right over left? So Kabbalah explains, Jewish mysticism or mystical wisdom explains that right, David is asking about tying shoes. That's totally different, but we'll get there in a second, and I'll explain why. Why right over left? Right corresponds with chesed, with kindness. Left corresponds with kavur. Now, I'm citing a mystical tradition with the tree of life. If you're familiar with Kabbalah, so then you know what I'm talking about. If not, then just take my word for it. So the right side corresponds with divine chesed, kindness. The left side was with gevura. Gevura is more discerning. Chesed is giving, take, very generous. Gevura is more discerning. Like, do you deserve it? Should I give it? Should I not give it? It's more about deliberation and then maybe giving. So when it comes to the blessings that we want in our lives, we don't want God like, should I give? Should I not give? We want God to just give, right? Give us the health that we need and our families need. Give us the money that we need. Give us, the strength and the wisdom and all of the blessings that we need. We don't want God to start saying, well, should I, shouldn't I? We want to move God. We want to tilt the scales away from the left side toward the right side. That's why we start off with the right. The exception is when we tie our shoes. That's what David was pointing out in the chat. The exception is when we tie our shoes, and the reason is because when tying, we remind ourselves. Susan has a very interesting note in the chat, which I'll get to in a second. Tying our shoes reminds us of tying the knot or wrapping the straps of the tefillin. And when it comes to tefillin, the Torah tells us, put it on the weaker arm. Put it on the weaker arm. And since most people are righties, well, if you're a righty, you put it on the left arm. Your tefillin, you wrap it on the left arm. If you're a lefty, you put it on the right arm. But most people are righties, so they tie tefillin on the left arm. And so it's become the practice to tying our left shoe first. Okay, but otherwise we get dressed with the right side. Susan points out in the chat, very interestingly enough, that left over right for men's clothing has its roots in being able to get a weapon quickly. Women's clothing is right over left, no hidden weapon. I love that. That's so pragmatic, but it's also to me, it's very telling, right? Maybe we want to move away from the violence and go right over left. No weapons here. I'm buttoning right over left. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Tying is a gevura action. Yeah. So tying is kind of like a gevura action. It's like binding. So maybe that's why we do it with the left. Either way, typically we start with the right and then move on to the left. So that is with regards to getting dressed. Now, the next thing we do, if we haven't done it yet, now, it's ideally we've done it, but if we haven't done it yet, we make sure before moving on to the next, at this point, we have to wash our face. Again, if you wash your face before you got dressed, shower, whatever it is, then you're good to go. But if for whatever reason you didn't, right, then at this point, Jewish law tells us to at least to wash our faces. Why wash the face? This is so interesting. Our tradition tells us that, well, we know the Torah tells us that each of us is created in the image of God, right? And so our sages tell us, imagine there's a statue built with a king's image. Like when you go to a baseball stadium, go to Yankee Stadium, they have Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio. They have, all the greats, the great sluggers in Yankee Stadium. If you go to Truist, are we Truist now? Truist Park in Atlanta and Cobb, you have probably Hank Aaron. Yeah, we assume there's Hank Aaron. Yeah, for sure, Hank Aaron, and others as well. I'm not. It's been a year or two. I don't remember. It's baseball. Who knows? But they have the statues. Imagine if there was a statue of the king and it was collecting dust and it was getting rusty and it didn't look nice. That wouldn't be nice. That wouldn't be a nice reflection of the king's honor. And so our tradition tells us, you and I, our faces reflect God's image. We have to make our faces look nice. Isn't that nice? Isn't that great? I love that teaching. I hope it's coming across how much I love that idea. We are reflecting God's image. We have to be clean and take care of ourselves. Such a beautiful idea. If not for us, let's do it for God. Whatever works. Main thing is to be clean. It's a good thing. All right. So after that, let's go through the steps. We woke up and we didn't hit the snooze button. We woke up and we woke up. Time to get up. We got a day here, folks. It's happening. Step one. Step two is moda'ani. Kind of step one, but whatever. Step 1, 2-ish, moda'ani. We say the prayer. Then we get up, shower, get dressed, wash our face, whatever. Now we're up to the next step. This is big. We move our way out of the bathroom, right? Now we're out into another sink area. And now commences the hand washing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hand washing, I heard that. I've heard a lot about hand washing recently. Guess what? We had it first. I'm just saying, we had it first. We totally preempted that whole scenario. By the way, today, it's not just hand washing. It's like you have to use certain soaps, antibacterial, or whatever it is, and you have to, sing happy birthday or something. You have to do it for a certain amount of time. I saw these fantastic Twitter videos of people doing Jewish versions of happy birthday. Not like Hebrew happy birthday, that's way too easy. But like Jewish versions of what things to say or sing while you're doing the hand washing. And it's hilarious, like parts of the Haggadah and whatever. It's a lot like Dayenu, whatever. It's hilarious. But I digress. The point is washing hands. Today, it's a big thing. We're washing our hands and we're doing it for a certain amount of time, even though, so it says 20 seconds, yeah? What if I wash my hands for 10 seconds? Not good. Why not? Nope, you need 20 seconds. I don't see anything. No difference. Okay, maybe you can't see it, but you got to do it right. Judaism says there's a way to wash your hands right for spiritual reasons, for spiritual purposes. And there's a way to not do it right. We want to get it right. Remember, this is Judaism at home. We have more time at home. Let's explore what Judaism says about the morning at home. So let's do this. We go over to a sink and we take a cup. But not just any cup. Ideally, we take what we call a washing cup, a netilat yodayim cup. You may have seen these cups. They have 2 handles. Such a Jewish cup. How many handles do you want? Is there any additional cost? No, I'll take 2. Done. Right, so 2 handles. And Adina Malka has a, wow, I love that. If you're not on the Breda Bunch view, see if you can do that. Adina Malka Adele has a beautiful, ornate beautifully painted washing cup. That's exactly what a washing cup might look like. They could be made of metal. Sorry?
I got it in when we went up to Crown Heights for the day several years back.
Love that. Brooklyn representing. I love it. Crown Heights. Love that place. Okay. I was born in Pittsburgh, grew up in Pittsburgh, but I spent a few good years in Crown Heights. Okay. Washing cups will typically have two handles. Why two handles? Very interesting. Because, well, this is really going to get into a theme that I'll speak about in a moment. I haven't set it up properly because we don't want the two hands to touch. I'll explain that in a moment. Let me show you the washing cup that I have prepared. Yes, I prepared props right over here. It's happening. Folks, this is a fairly simple, very simple, cheaper version of a washing cup. Okay, you see that? Here's a cup. You may be able to see that it actually has water in it. Watch out, my computer's here. Okay, this is a washing cup and it's got the dual handles. Okay, right? This is my Twitter handle and this is my Instagram handle. Joking. Two handles on the washing cup. Now, who uses Twitter anyway, or Instagram? I think we're into TikTok now. I'm not sure, but that's what they're telling me. Now, moving on. So we use a cup. If you don't have one of these cups, I can tell you where to get them, but you can use any other cup as long as it's, you know, kind of round. You know, it shouldn't have any like spouts or whatever. It should be round on the top, like in the same level. And that's pretty much it. You fill it up with water and you wash your hands. Here's how you do it. Here are the basics. Number one, nothing should be in between the water and the hands. What do I mean when I say that? If you have a ring, take it off before you wash the hands. If you can't get it off, leave it on, right? Don't, it's, you know, if you can't, you can't. But if you can, take it off because the water is meant to actually touch the hands directly. So we fill the washing cup from a non-bathroom sink because we're about to do something very special. We're about to do a mitzvah. So we don't want to do a mitzvah in a bathroom. It's kind of like not the appropriate place to do a mitzvah. We go to any other sink in our home, which is typically the kitchen, because I don't know how many other sinks people have. But we go to another sink, we fill up the washing cup, and then we take the water and we pour it over our hands. We start with, you probably guessed it, the right hand, unless you're a lefty, and then you start with the left hand. But that's another story. Any lefties here, by the way? Lefties? Lefties? No? Someone's got to be a lefty. No? Okay. I guess no one has to be a lefty in this meeting. So we take the cup of water that we've filled up and we start pouring it over our hands. And the way we do it is, let's see if I can get this going here. The power of Zoom. Let's see if this works. Ta-da! Not only do I have a, hey guys, maybe I can fit in this frame. Not only do I have a washing cup, I have a washing cup basin that are matching silver. That's kind of cool. Okay, now here's what we do. We take the cup. Some have a tradition to lift it up with the right hand, transfer it to the left hand, and then pour it over the right hand. Either way, you want to pour it over, if you're ready, pour it over your right hand first. You pour the water, it should go from the wrist to the edges of the fingers. So what you're doing is something along the lines of that. See how it covers the whole hand? That's how we want to do it. Now, we then switch hands. And look, my hands don't have to touch. You know why? You know why? Because I got the dual handle situation going on. So I easily pass it from one handle or from one hand to the other. Different handles, no contact. Super hygienic right here. Hey guys, on this side. And then you pour it again over the wrist, right? From the wrist down, you try to get that going. Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Now I've done one and one. Now the next thing I want to do, hey guys, I'm still here. Next thing I want to do is we're going to switch back. So we're going to do this series 3 times each, which means a total of 6 hand pours. I did 1 and 1. I now do it again. 1, 1, and for the third time, 1 and 1. At this point, I can hang my washing cup over the edge. How cool is that? A little feature action over here. I move it to the side and I pull out get this, somebody came prepared, my little hand towel or whatever, dish towel that I'm using. So I have a little towel, you dry your hands, and then you say the blessing over the mitzvah of washing the hands. This is a mitzvah. This is actually one of the mitzvot that we have to wash our hands. At this point in the morning, we've woken up, we've said Moda Ani, we've done our thing, we've gotten dressed, washed our face, make sure that it's washed either way. And at this point, we now wash the hands. It's called Netilat Yadayim, which means washing the hands. And at this point, I'm going to share my screen with you. Here we go for the next passage. Passage number 2. Okay, here we go. This is the Netilat Yadayim. So as you see here, there are instructions. Again, I'm going to share this document with you. You'll have it. You can reference it at any point in time. Remove objects from your hand, a ring, fill the washing cup, pour it over the right hand, left hand. You do that whole thing 2 more times. In other words, a total of 6 pours. If you're left-handed, you reverse it, like I mentioned. Dry your hands. I demonstrated all that. And then we do the blessing. We say the blessing. And the blessing goes, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us. Whoops, what's going on here? Try that one more time. And nothing is working here. And commanded us, let me get this. Commanded us concerning the washing of the hands. We say that God, you've given us the mitzvah, you've given us commandments, and one of them is to wash the hands. This is what we do at this point in the morning. It's a very important mitzvah. And let's talk about the significance. Why do we wash our hands? I want to share with you 3 or 4 points. There are many others, but let's share some ideas. Number 1, it's brought down in Jewish thought that just like the priests, the Kohanim, in the Holy Temple used to start their day by washing their hands before they began the service in the temple, so to each of us is like a priest. Each of us is like a priest serving in the temple. Our homes, our temple, anywhere we go in the world is a temple. Our tables are like an altar. I mean, there's such beautiful teachings. We'll speak about that. Susan's asking a great question. Okay, I'm going to get to your question in a second. I'll mention your question. I'll get to it in a second. Just like in the temple, they started the day with washing their hands to kind of like set their intention and physically do something like a cleansing process or prep to begin the service. We are beginning our service. We got up, we got dressed, we got ready, went to the bathroom, all that stuff. And now we're ready to roll. Now ready to roll, we do this action. We wash our hands and say the blessing. Okay, good. That's one reason. Second reason that we have brought down to the good sources is that at night when we sleep, our hands might touch parts of our body that aren't clean. So when we wake up in the morning, maybe we didn't have time to shower, whatever it is. So we make sure that whatever happened, we wash our hands to make sure they're clean. That's a more pragmatic reason. I want to share with you the third reason, which is the more spiritual reason. I love this one. I'm going to have another reason, a fourth reason that's even more, I would say, psycho-spiritual, but this is a spiritual reason. And this harkens back to what I mentioned before. When we sleep, Judaism tells us it's a taste of death. And a taste of death renders one in a state of impurity. And the impurity, it says in Kabbalah, it says in Jewish mysticism, the impurity rests on the deadest part of the body, the part of the body that is the most dead. Which part of the body is the most dead? Well, just look at which part of the body doesn't have any feeling. The fingernails. The fingernails are the toenails also, I guess you could say, hair also maybe, but it says specifically that tzipernayim, the fingernails, are where the spirit of impurity rests. So pretty much right away in the morning, what we do is we take the cup of water and we pour it to spiritually cleanse the impurities off of that hand. But the nature of impurity is when it's being attacked by water, guess what it does? It jumps from the right hand and it's going to jump to the left hand. So we immediately switch hands and we begin pouring on the left hand. And then we go back to the right and go to the left. We alternate. And we do it 3 times because 3 times is a sign of chazakah. 3 times is a sign of establishing something as being legitimate and being set. So we do it 3 times on each side, total of 6, and we alternate so that we attack the klipa, we attack the negative forces, the spirit of impurity on the one hand, and then the other hand quickly. So Susan asked in the chat a moment ago, why when we wash our hands for bread, before eating bread, why do we wash the hands differently? What do I mean? I don't know how much water I have left. I think I kind of used a bunch of it to demonstrate as accurately as possible. But let me go back to my little demo action. So what you would do is washing for bread, for hamotzi. So either challah or any bread, or on Passover before we eat the matzah, so we wash our hands differently. We go one. I don't have a lot of water, so I'm going to be a little bit scarce with the water. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. We do it 3 times, but we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The reason is I just gave you the answer. The reason is because when it comes to washing the hands for bread, there's no impurity that we're getting rid of. That is simply about getting ready to attack our meal in a mindful way, which, by the way, is the subject of next week's class, about eating at home in a mindful fashion and elevating the gastronomical experience to a higher level. So that's all next week. But here's the point: before we embark on the avodah, on the service of eating, we also wash our hands. At least for bread. Bread is a staple of life. So we wash our hands, but then we do it 3 and 3 because there's no impurity that's jumping around. But in the morning hand washing, it jumps around. So we got to attack one. We don't want to start hitting the right hand 3 times. No, the left hand is like drowning in impurity. We don't want to do it like sans water drowning. So what we want to do is we want to alternate back and forth. Make sense what I'm saying? Again, I know you might be thinking like, what are we talking about? Like, what is this? Like an actual force? I can't see it. What is this? And I'll just say this. Listen, I'm not a doctor, but you ask a layperson, what's the deal with the washing of the hands? What's the deal with the hand sanitizer? I can't see it. What's this thing called germs, right? Who said certain things can't be seen by the eye? Now, certain things can be seen with a microscope. Certain things can only be seen through a spiritual lens. And Torah and our sages have told us what lies behind, or what can be seen through that spiritual lens, and it might not be visible to the naked eye. Okay. Now, on to the final idea regarding the hand washing. And this is the one that I really love. This is like kind of like the psychological, spiritual element here. Okay. So, when you start your day, you're kind of, the first thing you're maybe not fully awake. You're doing your thing. You're going around, you're going through the motions, brushing your teeth, going through getting dressed, but it's kind of like, ritual. It's kind of like by rote. But once your morning ritual is kind of wrapped up, at that point, you start thinking about your day. And oftentimes it can become overwhelming. You might start getting like anxious, anxiety, like, oh my gosh, why did I get up? I have all this stuff to take care of, and this deadline, and this person is going to be calling me soon, and I have to answer to that one. Like, oh my gosh, do I need this in my life? At this point, I'm sharing with you an insight that one of the Hasidic masters once said, such a powerful insight. At this point is right when we wash our hands. Right? We've gone through like the physical morning ritual, and now we wash our hands. Why? In that moment, we symbolically wash away the anxiety. And we say all the worries and stuff, it's all temporal, it's all temporary, it's all stuff that's here today, gone tomorrow, here in one moment, gone the next. We wash it away and we cleanse ourselves of the worry, and we embrace the fact that God is in control. And you know what? I'll be okay. I'm telling you this is so healthy on a very physical level. When I say physical, I mean like wellness level. It's so healthy to just breathe through the anxiety, breathe through the worry, breathe through the concerns, right? Just take a deep breath in and out and recognize that God's in control. And if God's in control and God loves me, it'll be okay. It's going to work out. Somehow or another, it's going to work out. That knowledge itself is symbolized, is kind of expressed in the hand washing. And I think it's such a great way to start the day. Okay, so tell me what you think so far. Yes? Make sense? Any other questions? Let me look in the chat, see if there's any other question that I didn't answer. I think I answered all the questions so far in the chat to me. Comments? Clarifications? No? You know what? At least unmute yourself. At least I can hear another voice. Just say hi for a second.
We're here with you.
Good. All right. I just want to, just making sure. Hey, Sandrine. Okay. So let's now move on. We're almost through kind of the Judaism at Home morning edition. Now we're ready We're still not ready for our coffee yet. You're thinking, oh, we washed our hands. Let's get a carrot going on. Let's get what do they call it? Like the drip? What is it? Or the French press? There's like a fancy, like kind of whatever. Or what about the Nespresso or the cold brew, right? Still not ready. No matter what you call it or how you drink it, not ready yet. A few more moments and we're ready to jump in. The message, by the way, is we don't begin to eat or drink until we make sure we're in the right frame of mind. Because once that gets started, we're off and running. And next week is about how to eat in a spiritually healthy way. That's next week. But this is before we start eating. The last thing we do is we recite a few blessings, morning blessings. Now, these are essentially blessings of gratitude, expanding on the general statement that we made, giving gratitude to God for life and waking up this morning, because there's no guarantee that we wake up every morning, right? Please God, we do, right? Every morning. And thank God we do. But these blessings at this point in time, after we've gotten dressed and washed the face and washed the hands and said that blessing, at this point, we're ready to do a little bit of an expansive version on the gratitude blessings. So the first thing is, it might surprise you. The first blessing we say after the hand washing is a blessing thanking God for our body functioning the way it needs to. And specifically, we call that, well, I don't know if we call that, I'm going to call that right now, the bathroom blessing. No, we don't say it in the bathroom, but it's the blessing that thanks God for the body working in the way it needs to work. Now, again, specifically with regards to bodily functions, etc. Let me share with you my screen once again, and let's look at passage. Ironically, passage number 3, the Asher Yotzar. This is the blessing recited after the ritual washing of the hand. Here we go. I'm going to read it in English. Passage number 3. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who formed man, human being, with wisdom and created within him many orifices and cavities. It is revealed and known before the throne of your glory that if but one of them were to be blocked or one of them were to be opened, it would be impossible to exist even for a short while. Blessed are you, Lord, who heals all flesh and performs wonders. We thank God for the body, the openings being open, and the closed being closed, right? That which is open that which should be open is open, and that which is closed should be closed. And we thank God for being able to, the body being able to function the way a healthy body functions. I hope what I'm trying to express is coming through, and that is how incredibly sensitive Judaism is, and how incredibly filled with gratitude we are meant to be. We don't take anything for granted. It's not like, yeah, of course it works. Like, why wouldn't it work? Like, yeah, we're healthy. I mean, that's how the body works. We don't take anything for granted. We thank God. We bless God. We say a special prayer, a short prayer, but a special blessing for being able to do what we need to do. And that happens, we say that blessing again, not in the bathroom, after we get out of the bathroom, but we have to first wash the hands because there's that impurity. That impurity that, by the way, didn't affect the Modani. The Modani, as I mentioned, I foreshadowed that before, the Modani is so pure, the first prayer, that our hands could be impure, it doesn't matter. It's coming from the pure part of the soul that's not related to us. But as we continue the blessings, we need to get that hand washing in first. So we wash the hands, and then we say the bathroom blessing, that blessing about the bodily functions. Now, after that, we continue with another, sorry? Okay, after that, okay. After that, we continue with a quick series of blessings. We're going to talk about 4 of these blessings. There are 14 in total, very short blessings. Let's talk about 4 of them, the first 4. Very significant, very cool. These are blessings that speak about our gratitude for the life that we have in the morning that we're enjoying. So take a look-see at my screen, or at the screen that I'm sharing. Passage 4, a sampling of morning blessings. This is your sampler, okay? Blessing number 1 is, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives the rooster understanding. Yeah, that's not a misprint. Who gives the rooster understanding to distinguish between day and night. We're thanking God for roosters. I know what you're thinking. What? What's going on? We're thanking God for roosters. Since when? Okay, think about it. Back in the day, the rooster was the alarm clock. So we're thanking God for the alarm clock. Maybe today we should say, thank you for the iPhone or the Android or the alarm clock that gets us up. But we stick with the original liturgy, which is about roosters, because the point is, it's about the ability to get up in the morning. It's about the ability to discern between when it's dark and when it's morning, and to know when to get up and to actually get up. The other thing is, there's a deeper explanation or deeper interpretation of this prayer that says it's not about the rooster, but it's about us. We are the rooster. That sounds like a hashtag on Twitter. We are the rooster. What does it mean, we are the rooster? It means that we are thanking God for having the ability to understand the distinction between day and night, between right and wrong, between that which is okay and that which is not okay, between that which is bright and luminescent and reflecting God's glory and that which goes the other direction. And we thank God for having the seichel, for having the wisdom, the understanding to discern between right and wrong. That's blessing number 1. Blessing number 2. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who opens the eyes of the blind. We thank God for the ability to see. We don't take our eyesight for granted. Eyesight, the ability to see, is one of the greatest blessings that human beings have. In fact, I think it was Darwin himself who said in his book, The Origin of Species, on The Origin of Species, I think he said that the eye almost calls into question the whole notion of evolution. The eye is so complex that, evolution almost can't explain the eye. I'm not going to get into a discussion about evolution and Jewish position on that. That's for another class or two or several. But know this, our eyesight, our ability to see, is not insignificant. It's highly significant. It reminds me of a quote from Helen Keller, of course, famous author who was blind, who writes in one of her books or one of her essays that she asked somebody who had been out in the afternoon, where were you? And they said they took a hike in the forest or in the meadow. And she said, what did you see? And he said, nothing. And she's talking about what her first thought, she didn't say anything, but her thought was like, are you kidding me? You saw nothing? What I would give to see the nothing that you saw. And she said how often it is that people who have eyes can't see, or people who have eyes, who have functioning eyes, choose not to see and not to pay attention. Our eyes are so precious, so valuable, literally windows to the world, literally window to behold the world around us. So we say the second blessing here is the blessing about eyesight, the ability to see. The third is blessing God for, blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, who releases the bound. We thank God for the ability to stretch. When we sleep, our limbs are kind of folded up. They're immobile. Yeah, I know people move when they sleep a little bit, and maybe we have some sleepwalkers among us, whatever. But by and large, we're still when we sleep. When we wake up, we're able to stretch, right? We're able to stretch. That ability to stretch, we don't take for granted. We thank God for that ability to stretch. On a spiritual level, it means also the notion that we can stretch, we can grow. We don't have to be stuck and stagnant where we are. We have the ability to stretch. I forgot to mention the spiritual meaning of the ability to see, opens the eyes of the blind. We have the ability to discern, to see into the future. I don't mean like, crystal ball it, but able to see the ramifications of things that we do, choices that we make, actions that we take. When we do something, it's not in the moment, it's a far-reaching ramification. There are ripple effects that happen with every action that we take. So open the eyes of the blind is also a meditation to be careful. Think about what the action that I'm about to take. Is it going to lead to something positive or something negative? And we have to have that foresight. Getting back to releasing the bound, on a physical level, it means the ability to stretch. Spiritual level means the ability to grow beyond the status quo. Let's continue with the fourth blessing. Here we go. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who straightens the bowed. What that means is that's referring to specifically the ability that we have to sit up in the morning, to sit up in bed. Now, we're not in bed anymore. We're already out of bed, but we're hearkening back to that ability. When we woke up in the morning, we're able to go from a lying position to a sitting position. We don't take that for granted. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that the same thing as what we said before? Let me go back to it. This prayer of this blessing of God releasing the bound sounds very similar to straightening the bowed, but it's different. It's different. One is about stretching, one is about sitting up. And even though it's similar, but it's two separate motions. First we stretch and then we sit up. And we're thanking God each step of the way. That's what gratitude is. Gratitude is not, I'm blessed, everything's good. Gratitude means we take notice. If you're familiar with the Dayenu, right? The famous Dayenu prayer on Passover at the Seder, we thank God for all the miracles that he did. And we phrase it in such a cool way. We say, like, had God just done this miracle and not the other one, that would be amazing. But guess what? God also did that one. And if he did that one and not the next one, it would have also been amazing. But he did that one also. What's the whole point? Why not just say, God, you're awesome? Because gratitude is healthy for us. And the more we notice, the more we feel like we're blessed. And so when we think about our morning and the blessings in the morning, we thank God for the rooster. We thank God for sight, opening our eyes. We thank God for stretching. We thank God for sitting up. Spiritually, sitting up has a beautiful significance. When we lie down, our head is on the same level as our torso. Mind and heart, intellect and emotion are on the same level. When we sit up, the mind towers above the heart. That's what it means to be a human, right? To be a behemoth, to be an animal means that your head and heart are on the same level. Kangaroos are going to throw us off. Don't talk about kangaroos, right? To be an animal means that your head and heart are on the same level. To be a human being means that you have the ability to use your mind to control your heart. You have the ability to be in control of your emotions. You don't have to get carried away with instinct, impulse, anger, gut reaction. Slow it down. Let me think about it, and then I'll react with my heart. That's what it means to sit up spiritually. It means that the mind should tower over and moderate the heart. So these are the first four blessings. In general, what this means for us is that as we go through our morning at home, all of this is at home. This is Judaism at home. This is not in the synagogue. None of this happens in the synagogue, whether it's coronavirus time or not, right? This is all home stuff, but now we can focus on it more and maybe indulge in it a little bit more because we have a little bit more time. Maybe we're not, if we're commuting for half an hour each day, you know what that means for me? That means you and I have an extra half hour. I mean, I don't have a half an hour commute. I'm like around the block from Chabad. But if you have a commute, you know what? Now you don't have it. Now, assuming that you're not driving to work, if you are, then you are. But if you don't have that commute, then you've now gained some time. Now we can maybe jump into some of these practices. Again, I told you when we started, I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. A lot of information. It's not all or nothing. It's about two things. Whatever moves you, whatever resonates with you. I want to share another few points. The Hebrew word for wealthy, like wealthy, if I were a rich man, right, is ashir. Ashir is a wealthy person. It's been said that ashir, ayin, shin, yud, resh, stands for four, it's an acronym for four Hebrew words. Einayim, shinayim, yadayim, raglayim. I know that sounds like it rhymes, and it does, but it means eyes, hands, teeth, and legs. What does it mean to be wealthy? To have eyes that work, to have hands that work, to have teeth that work. You ever have a toothache? Gewalt. Those are the worst, right? Have hands that work, have eyes that work, hands that work, teeth that work, and legs that work. That's what it means to be wealthy. We don't take it for granted. We thank God every step of the way. Final point. After these blessings, and it doesn't take that long, especially when we've done it a few times. It takes a few minutes. We're still not out to the coffee yet. I told you I'm taking you to coffee. I'll let you know when we get there. The last thing we do before coffee is Torah, a little bit of Torah. Why? Because you can't do anything without Torah. Torah is like oxygen. Famous story, Rabbi Akiva was once teaching Torah at a time when the Romans had forbade it. And somebody said to Rabbi Akiva, like, what are you doing, man? Like, well, maybe they didn't say man. They said, what are you doing? The Romans are going to find you and kill you. And he says, look, I'll give you an example. I could tell you a parable. There was once a fish that was swimming rapidly in the water. And the fox, the clever, cunning fox, said to the fish, why are you swimming so erratically? And he said, well, because I'm avoiding the fisherman's net. He said, well, why don't you just hop up on shore with me? I'll take care of you. And the fish said, you tricky little fox, you. I know what you want. You want me to jump out of the water and then you'll eat me. I can't survive without the water. If I'm in the water, maybe I'll survive. Yes, maybe no. If I'm out of the water, I'm for sure a goner. That's 100% death. Rabbi Akiva said this is true with Torah. And this was at the time of a decree by punishment of death about studying and teaching Torah. He said, look, if we teach Torah and study Torah, maybe we'll get caught, maybe we won't. But if we abandon Torah, we're for sure gone. Like, what kind of life is that without Torah? So after the blessings, we segue straight to Torah. But, and I should mention, this is a plug now for Torah. Ideally, you should have in your home Jewish books. I don't mean like Shalom Aleichem, or whatever. I mean like Jewish books. Okay, here's what I mean. I mean like a copy of the Chumash, the Bible, right? Hebrew English. All these books that I'm going to show you are Hebrew English. A copy of the Siddur, the prayer book, Hebrew English. A copy of the book of Psalms, Hebrew English. Copy of the abridged version of the Code of Jewish Law, the highlights, English. No Hebrew, just English. A copy of Tanya, the book of Jewish mysticism. Kind of a plain cover, but Hebrew English. So it's good to have books, Jewish books. I have a few more in my house. So, but these are just a sampling of some of the top 5 books to have. Okay, so we're ready to do a little bit of Torah. Before we do that, we thank God for giving us the Torah, and that is the subject of our next excerpt. Here we go. We're almost at the end of our morning journey to the coffee pot. Take a look. Blessings on the Torah. 3 blessings for Torah. We say to God, BLB. I'm kidding. We say to God, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us concerning the words of Torah. We thank God for the mitzvah, for the opportunity to study Torah. Every mitzvah, every commandment. It's not just an instruction. Commandment in Hebrew, mitzvah, means connection. We thank God for giving us the opportunity to connect to him, to God, through his wisdom, through Torah. That's blessing number 1. Blessing number 2, we say, Lord our God, make the teachings of your Torah pleasant in our mouths. We ask that Torah work with us, like in a way that's compatible and pleasing for us and pleasing for Torah. And in the mouths of your entire people, the house of Israel, may we, our children, and the children of your entire people, the house of Israel, all be knowers of your name and students of your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Lord, who teaches the Torah to his people Israel. We thank God for Torah once again, and we ask that God help ensure that we study Torah in a proper fashion and that our children study Torah. What a beautiful blessing that middle one is. And the final one is, we talk about the notion of God giving us the Torah and choosing the Jewish people to receive the Torah at Sinai, to then be messengers to convey it to the rest of the world, light unto the nations. We say, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has chosen us from among the nations and given us the Torah. His Torah, blessed are you, Lord, who gives the Torah. We thank God for the gift. Once again, there's Torah. We thank God for the opportunity to connect. We ask that God help us understand it and our children appreciate it. And we thank God for choosing us to be carriers of his wisdom in the Torah. And then, this is the last thing, we actually study a little bit of Torah in the morning, right before the coffee. You could start making the coffee now. We study a little bit of the written Torah. It's an excerpt from the book of Numbers. And we study a little bit from the oral Torah. This is a Mishnah, one of the Mishnayot. The section from the Torah, from the Bible that we read, is the priestly blessing, right? The Lord spoke to Moses, says, speak to Aaron, the sons. This is, thus shall you bless the children of Israel, say to them. Famous blessings. May the Lord bless you and guard you. May the Lord make his countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his countenance towards you and grant you peace. And they shall set my name upon the children of Israel, and I shall bless them. We say this prayer. We say, it's not a prayer. This is Torah study. We say this passage of Torah. What better passage of Torah talks about blessings and peace and love and God's blessings? Such a beautiful piece of Torah to study in the morning, first thing. And then we do a little bit from the Mishnah. And this is also a beautiful Mishnah. Take a look at this one. These are the precepts for which no fixed measure is prescribed, leaving the crops of the edge of the fields for the poor, the gift of the first fruits, the pilgrimage offerings brought when appearing before the Lord on the 3 festivals, deeds of kindness and study of Torah. In other words, there's no limit to how far you can go. Leave as much as you want, study as much as you want. These are mitzvahs that have no max, right? Give, be generous, give, study, learn, love. It's fantastic. The next paragraph, these are the precepts, the fruits of which man enjoys in this world, while their principal reward remains in the world to come. In other words, these are mitzvot that are double whammies in a good way. They help us in this world, and they generate a lot of spiritual reward in the world to come. Here we go. Honoring one's father and mother, performing deeds of kindness, early attendance at the house of study morning and evening, hospitality to strangers, visiting the sick, dowering the bride, and there's helping a couple get started if they don't have money, escorting the dead, laying someone to rest, concentration in prayer, bringing peace between man and his fellow man and between husband and wife, and the study of Torah is equivalent to them all. It's such a beautiful Mishnah. I mean, it speaks for itself. Such a great collection of mitzvot, of good deeds that we can do that are so beautiful toward our fellow man, a fellow human being, toward God. And we end off by saying, in Torah study, Talmud Torah keneged kulam. Torah study is equivalent to them all. Why? Some commentators explain, because you can't do any of these mitzvot without studying Torah, because you don't know what to do. So Torah study is essential so that we can know what to do, which reminds us, of course, that the study is great because it drives action. Study tells us what to do, but the main thing is the action. It's good to talk the talk, but it's even better to walk the walk. And now we can have our cup of coffee. L'chaim. I'm sure you were all saying l'chaim with me, just the mics are muted. Here's what I want to say as we conclude today's session. I want to kind of summarize and perhaps give a charge and empower you and myself. Look, in conclusion, what Jewish practice teaches us is the notion of gratitude. We don't take life for granted. We don't take the moments of life, the gifts of life for granted. These are tremendous gifts. These are priceless gifts, literally priceless gifts. How do you put a price on life? It's priceless. And when we have it, we need to appreciate it. And when we appreciate it, we should say thank you. And so we start the day with a thank you, right? We get ourselves looking good, looking decent, so that we can face God, wash our hands, and say thank you again. And then we study some Torah, and then we go on our day. We eat something, eat some breakfast. Maybe we do some more prayers, which we'll talk about perhaps in another session. And then we go off to work. We have opportunities to do all sorts of things throughout the day. But this moment to get our day, to mindfully set our intention as we begin the day, this is truly, truly priceless. So join me in committing to knocking over the computer. No, join me in committing ourselves to be more intentional. As intentional as we've been so far, let's be a little bit more intentional, even more intentional, to make every day and every moment count, and ensure that even as we're at home, even as the world is disrupted, even as synagogue services have come to a halt, even as people are looking for meaning in all sorts of places, we know this. In the comfort of our own bedrooms, in the comfort of our own kitchens, In the comfort of our own home, private spaces, you and I can be centered, we can be grounded, we can have gratitude, we can be connected, and we can live a meaningful, purpose-driven life. It all begins in the beginning. So that is today's session. Thank you very much for joining me for session number 1, lesson 1 of Judaism at home. So I'm here, thank you. So I'm here to answer questions or to schmooze. Quick announcement, next week, I mentioned a few times, but I'll mention once again, next week we look at Jewish food, which is always a great topic. So now that we're ready to eat new, what's next? Can we find meaningful experiences at home? Sorry, with our food? The answer is absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to explore that next time in Judaism at Home. Again, this course is all about finding meaning at home, and food is a big piece of that. It's a big part of that. I mean, how many times, at least certainly nowadays, we're at home, have we gone to the refrigerator just kind of browsing? So let's learn how to invite meaning into these experiences. Join me next time, same bat time, same bat channel, Tuesdays at 8. And by the way, if you know anybody that would appreciate this course, let them know. I'd love for them to join, and I'm sure you would too. So please do that. All right. I'm available. Any questions, chat, open your mic, bid farewell, whatever, however you want to do it. Good? Fantastic.
See you next week.
Pleasure. See you next week. Shavua Tov. Have a good week. Make it meaningful. And tomorrow morning, start the day like a lion and get it rolling. All right. I'm going to email everybody. Please, God, I'm going to email everybody with a text right now. I'll take a few minutes and enjoy. Thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Thank you. Bye, Rabbi.
Be healthy. Stay well.